Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 5th of 2023, and given that we are getting very much closer to everything unraveling with Snow White 2024, with the official trailer release, which by the way, there's a lot of developments happening right now between the board members on their decision of the trailer release date, and let's just say in short that it's looking very much bad on them right now for the D23 event. We'll talk about that at another time, but what's really intriguing has a lot to do with what's been going on between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that director Marc Webb has been making a lot of changes to Snow White as of late. Now, for what we talked about last week, Disney has both a Plan A and a Plan B set in motion for this current film. Plan A is to re-edit the film, which is happening right now in post, and Plan B is to do some reshoots for many of the important scenes in Snow White 24, but the WGA strike and everything happening with SAG is getting in the way of their Plan B, and even if there were not any strikes, it would most certainly impact their current release date of March of 2024. Now, moving onwards, there's a lot of things happening between Zegler and Gal, and exactly why Zegler is having growing grudges with Gal Gadot, and how Marc Webb is at the center of all of this. So we're going to be explaining exactly what's going on behind closed doors, and what's contributing to this ongoing drama that's been rattling throughout Disney, rattling throughout the production of Snow White. So, specifically, with Snow White 24 going through much damage control by Disney, one major development has to do with the ongoing drama now happening between Rachel and Gal behind the scenes for Snow White. Over time, this situation has only been getting worse, where recently Zegler has been repeatedly getting furious with Gal Gadot for not defending her properly from the general public and from those working on Snow White that also reportedly had issues with her on set. As it turns out, Zegler was a very hard actress to work with for director Marc Webb and his created tensions on set. Marc Webb has been taking orders from Disney recently where he has been cutting out some of Rachel Zegler's scenes. The reasoning behind why Zegler has issues with Gal is that Gal was not standing up for Zegler and defending her most important scenes from getting cut from the film as Disney begins to re-edit this entire movie from start to finish. But it gets even more complex than that. Gal is said to be closely sided with Marc Webb and appreciates him and his work, and how Marc Webb is giving more favoritism to Gal. This is what's mainly creating tensions between all three on the production for Snow White. The drama between Zegler and Gal have been rattling throughout the production for Snow White to the point where it's a known thing to many during post-production as the re-edits are underway. Now guys, let me just stop here. So, this has a lot to do with the scenes that involve singing. As you all know, both Gal and Rachel have a lot of scenes in this film in which they do sing, and I've said this and I've been very openly clear about this. I feel that Gal really isn't that great of an actress to begin with, let alone a singer, so we already know that from the test screenings that Snow White 24 had a lot of negative feedback on the songs that were done in this movie, and I could see why Disney would be dialing back on as many songs as possible, specifically with Rachel Zegler, to kind of cut down the running time. Now look, at the end of the day, the fact that Marc Webb is pretty much having this phase of favoritism with Gal and really siding with her, it has a lot to do with the fact that, by the way, they are more friendly with each other than Rachel. We already talked about 2 weeks ago about how Marc Webb and Rachel don't really get along all that well behind the scenes of Snow White, specifically for reasons just like this, where Rachel wanted some of her scenes to remain intact, she wanted certain scenes to be executed a specific way, and they weren't. And to say, everything in short, Marc Webb had creative differences with Rachel's outlook on what Snow White 2024 was really supposed to be about. And she apparently wanted it to be even more distant from what they're already working on, which I think is just utterly ridiculous. But this is where things begin to unravel even further and get more complex, because We know that Gal and Rachel are the stars of this film. And the fact that she got offended over Gal not defending her properly from the general public ever since the backlash really got bad, that played another factor. But another factor that's even more important has to do with this. So, Webb also is replacing some of Zegler's singing scenes with Gal's in Snow White 2024 as they rearranged the film and cut down the running time. That was requested by Disney. However, this was all requested by Gal to up her screen time in the film. All in all, this is damage control at its finest that will lead nowhere. The re-edits are part of Disney's Plan A to clean up this movie and how it flows to drive moviegoers' interest in the film, as originally this film was close to 3 hours long that's now being cut back. Now, that's the thing too, is that Gal specifically told Marc Webb she asked for multiple favors to up her screen time of her singing sessions, a lot of which did not make it to the final cut, many of which are now, but they are replacing Rachel Zegler's scenes. And that's why there's an ongoing issue, an ongoing grudge between herself and Gal. And so, we've seen many examples, by the way, like this, guys, in the film industry, where you have two actresses or two actors where they seem very friendly with each other when they're promoting a film, and then that kind of just crumbles apart over time behind closed doors. So don't be too surprised if the SAG strike ends before the release of this film, that you don't see Gal and Rachel shoulder to shoulder all the time, and more so at an arm's length. You know, I think that at the end of the day, you're really going to see them more distant from each other, more separate if this ongoing drama worsens or remains the same and does not improve. It just goes to show you that this is a very toxic working environment, and it's no different than what Brie Larson had done with the Avengers cast. It's no different than what Phoebe Waller-Bridge had done with Indiana Jones 5, let alone Amber Heard. You know, same exact scenario. I mean, these are all insufferable actresses that are toxic and really just want to get things done their way. And they'll be friendly with you until they're not, because, you know, specific demands aren't met. That's basically how they roll. So, Snow White 24, it's not only a disaster plot-wise, but it's also a disaster production-wise. It is production hell. Between the stars having issues, director Marc Webb also, you know, being demanded by Disney to re-edit this entire thing, telling the editors what to do and how to do it. On time, mind you. They still want to get this thing out by March. I think it's a little crazy. They should just delay this thing or just flat out cancel it and call it a day. But that's another discussion for another time, because there's a lot of conversations happening with Disney right now about two conditions we already talked about on whether or not they want to cancel this thing. And just to put it short, a lot of that is very heavily reliant on the reception, the fan feedback, or just the feedback of the official trailer. If it's going to be that severe, as far as, you know, negativity-wise, they want to pull this thing from theaters. So anyway, guys, you know, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.